call to order the meeting of the Board of Embalmers and Funeral Directors. It's 1 o'clock. It's August 17th, 2015, Monday. And if we could have a roll call, please.
Brian Chandler.
Here.
Thomas Fleming.
Here.
Gregory Boyer.
Here.
Robert Wasco.
Here.
Jack Marchbanks.
Present.
And I will indicate Mr. Tanoff is not present.
And we'll move to item 1.02, introduction of our new Assistant Attorney General, Christy Lambert.
Yes, hello. I am new to the executive agencies section, but I've been with the office, Attorney General's office, and I am your new Assistant Attorney General.
Thank you. Welcome.
Can we hear a little bit about your background, about yourself?
I went to Bowling Green State University for undergraduate, University of Toledo College of Law. I was in charitable law before executive agencies, so I have a background in investigations, some civil litigation, and some administrative law. So,
And how long have you been with the AG's office?
2 years.
2 years. Well, welcome.
Thanks, I'm looking forward to it.
Mr. Chair, how do you spell your last name?
Limbert, and I got cards if you want
Cards,
those.
Thank you.
And persons before the board, 2.01 reciprocal license, Mohammed Hussein.
Present.
And if you'd like to stand up before us and tell us a little about yourself and your reason for being here.
I applied for reciprocity from North Carolina. I did my schooling at Chester, Virginia, and then got internship in North Carolina and got license in 2007, both the funeral director and embalmer.
Where did you attend mortuary college at?
Chester, Virginia.
Do you have an insurance license?
Yes.
You plan on going pre-need here in Ohio too?
I'm sorry?
Are you planning on going pre-need here in Ohio?
Yes. I mean, again, I just want to serve the community and mostly Muslim community, and usually they don't need pre-need or just at need, and not too much complication. It is a very early burial process, and you're supposed to bury within 24 hours. And usually embalming is not needed because it is less than 24 to 48 hours. So much of the requirement according to the religious, most of the people who will be working with me are families and friends, and it's a very simple procedure that washing of the body and shrouding, and immediately take it to prayers and then take it to the cemetery. It's a very fast, efficient, and not too much of involvement, and as a matter of fact, it is by religion it has to be done in a very quick, efficient way. So most of the time, whenever the dead body, whenever the death happens, it has to be buried at the place where, as you must have known that most of the immigrant population, and we discourage them to ship the body to overseas also. So,
Are you with the firm now? Or who are you working with?
I have not started yet.
You have not started yet?
Yeah, until I get the license, I'm not.
Are you going to be with a funeral home or just with your church?
With the church, yeah, with the church. They already have, a facility and, ready to.
What
go.
church is that?
Excuse me?
What church is that?
This is in Youngstown, Ohio.
Does the church have a name?
Mosque,
The mosque?
Yeah.
Okay. So, thank you.
Any more questions from any board members?
Yes, Mr. Singh, during your time as a North Carolina licensee, have you had any type of issues with their state board at all
No.
against your license or?
No.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Do you hold a bachelor's degree?
Masters.
A bachelor's degree?
I did my medical school at home from India, so I sent all the pertinent documents, and it has to be evaluated by American standards.
I can clarify. Part of the application process is that we require the licensing state, so North Carolina in this case, to provide us verification that they're licensed and that they've had no discipline, which we received from North Carolina. And Mr. Hussein attended college in his home country. It took a little while for us to get the interpretation of the transcript, but the transcript was awarded here through the interpretation process, at least a master's. In his home country, it was actually a doctorate.
So is the paperwork in order?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to accept.
Another question?
I just have one question. So, a licensed funeral director working out of a mosque, not working out of a licensed funeral, is there any issues with that he would need to be concerned with?
If he were working out of the mosque and not being employed by a funeral home, he may want to consider making a funeral home application and actually setting up a funeral home establishment, because he would need to be able to practice from a licensed facility.
Yes, that's probably.
Understood.
I
Okay.
think yeah.
Okay. I'm from Youngstown, and I know where the mosque is, so
Hey.
that's why.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you go right into it, I think it is on Wayne Street, no, Indiana, I think.
It's along the freeway.
Around the freeway.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Good to know.
I move to accept it as reciprocal.
Second.
Any more discussion? Roll call?
Jack Marchbanks,
Yes.
Thomas Fleming,
Aye.
Greg Boyer,
Yes.
Brian Chandler,
Yes.
Robert Wasko.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And we have another person before the board.
Thank you.
Thank you. Felicia Jefferson, if you'd like to stand up, tell us a little bit about yourself and explain why you're here today.
Okay, my name is Felicia Jefferson. I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio. Left in about 2010 to go to college at Tennessee State. Went to Tennessee State. I just recently graduated from there with a bachelor's in finance. While I was in Nashville, I went ahead and went to the John A. Gupton Mortuary College, where I graduated from there in 2012. Received my license, both funeral directing and embalming, last year, 2014, around, I think it was about the end of April, beginning of May. So I've been licensed for a little over a year now, doing both funeral directing and embalming. Coming back to Columbus just because it's home, and it's home.
There you go. Any questions?
You said licensed for a year now?
Yes.
Both funeral director and embalmer?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman. Oh, sorry. Mr. Chairman, will you be associated with any funeral home here in Central Ohio?
Yes, Del Whitaker.
Were you with a firm in Nashville?
Yes, it was. I was with two firms. One was New Generation, the other was Lewis and Wright.
Any issues on your part with the board down there?
No.
Tennessee board's pretty relaxed though.
Compared to the Ohio board, yes.
I was thinking the Tennessee board was pretty relaxed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
What part of Tennessee?
Nashville.
Oh, Nashville.
Yes, sir.
Coming back to Columbus.
Yes.
Does that mean you like country music or
I
just like
do.
that?
I'm not opposed to it. I'm open to some of it. Definitely not the biggest fan.
Two of my sister-in-laws live in Nashville,
Oh,
so we
okay.
see them quite a bit down. I love Nashville.
Yes.
It's a beautiful town.
It is,
Yes.
but it's not Ohio.
No, weather in Tennessee is a lot better
Yes,
than
I'm not
Ohio.
looking forward to winter.
Yeah. Any more questions?
I'll make a motion. Accept reciprocal.
Second.
Roll call?
Brian Chandler,
Yes.
Robert Wasco,
Yes.
Greg Boyer,
Yes,
Jack Marchbanks,
Yes.
Thomas Fleming.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Welcome home.
thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations to both of you. If you'd like to stay for the meeting, both of you are more than welcome to stay, but you don't have to stay. So if you'd like to step out, you're more than welcome. And thanks for coming.
Appreciate it.
And we're going to move on to item 3.01, consideration of July 2015 minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
after reviewing the minutes, I make a motion to approve.
we have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I have a question. Our meeting, was our minutes meeting, the standard of the AG report, as I read through the AG report?
That's been on the AG report since Summer joined us. I have not been given any other clarification.
I agree with what Summer is saying in the report. I reviewed it and I agree that there's room to improve.
Okay. Because it seems like we get different AG, we get a different version every time. So-
I'm fully in agreement with what Summer has been saying, that there needs to be more detail. Specifically, a discussion of what the discussion was for each vote, I think was her major concern, and I agree.
Just so you know, I'm going to give you a little history, being on board longer than you were in AG's office. During that time, we have been addressed by an AG's representative of changing our minutes. We had too much information. Then we went to another standard. Another AG came in and said, you don't have enough. We changed it. Another AG came in and said, you have too much. We changed it. So we've been through this.
I understand.
Okay.
I'm being consistent. I'm saying that
Yeah.
what Summer was saying is what I agree with. It needs to be a
Okay.
little bit more.
What's your feelings in regards to us videotaping and the minutes?
I also agree with Summers, what she had recommended in the confidential memorandum, that if you're going to be videotaping, that's fine. If you're going to adopt that as adding to the written minutes, that's also fine. I do not believe that's been done at this point. So if the meeting minutes as written still need to reflect the contents of the meeting. So everything that Summers written, I have reviewed and I agree with her as well.
Because I know when Tommy Taniff was here, he'd stated that they had their minutes, but they also had done a recording, audio recording. And if there was ever a discrepancy in the minutes or discussion about what was put in the minutes, that they would read the minutes and then they would go back to the audio recording and actually listen to it. And then, so that was something that he had explained to us.
That sounds right. If there's when filling out the written minutes, that can be used to supplement,
Is that just a matter of a motion, then? That we can do that to accept it?
to accept them as a supplement, I would believe so, yes. I
I'd
think-
like to make that motion. Have the video.
Would you be doing this for minutes from the previous meeting, or?
From when it began.
You
Need a
need to
motion.
review them first. Before you can adopt them as accurate, you need to review them. So you'd have to look at the tape from last session.
It's been, what, 6 months we've been doing it now?
Yes.
So we'd have to review each one of those, is what you're saying?
If you want to adopt them as supplemental to the.
Can I make that motion with that condition?
Make a motion.
We can accept the video as part of our minutes under the fact that we go back and review the previous meetings.
I'd be more comfortable if you waited until you've reviewed it and then.
For each set of minutes,
Yeah,
or?
Made a motion.
I need to clarify. It's uploaded the next day, so that video for last meeting has been there since.
Okay, but how do they look at it?
Oh, I don't know. I thought you were saying like that the video somehow comes at a later date.
No, he's talking about, for instance, right now you'd be adopting last month's, you mean monthly, so if you adopted last month's video as a supplement to the minutes, the question would be, have you had a chance to review it?
Okay, maybe you should clarify, one of you then. We can't adopt it as being part of our minutes, just overall, it has to be done each month.
You need a motion each month to,
Just like you do the minutes.
okay.
And each board member would need to have reviewed it to make sure that you
they're
have
very
personal
accurate.
knowledge that it's accurate.
Normal supplements to the minutes are pieces of paper, so it's easy to see what they are, and yes, this was distributed at the minutes, and yet, or at the meeting, and yes, this was an accurate copy of what was distributed. But if you haven't reviewed the video, and video is hard to review, it takes a lot of time, it's like going through the meeting again, so I'm not sure you want to do it.
So your suggestion would just be to add more detail into the red minutes as.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that much, it's
Okay.
just gotta be. And Christie can provide you with examples from other boards that have minutes that she would feel are appropriate, more appropriate.
And if you want, if you would like me to provide more detail on what Summer was talking about, I can do that, but it's that the rationale behind the decision is identified. That's the key piece we're looking for.
I just think we need to be uniform, and I'm saying, not just us, you folks, because from us getting it, you know,
Sure.
obviously we've had 5 different AG offices in here, and we're getting different interpretations every time.
I've been the same as Summer, so
Mr.
I'm not saying you're not, but you're still-
So you'd like to have more fluffiness and.
I would like to see a discussion of how the decision was arrived
Okay.
at.
That's how it's put to us, more fluffiness in our minutes.
Okay.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, I get a text from Mr. Tanoff that he's on his way. I'm almost positive, yes. He texted 111 that he's on his way.
Okay, we're on 4.01 individual licenses. I need a recommendation to approve.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? We need to roll call.
Roll call for
Roll call,
licenses.
please.
Greg Boyer,
Yes.
Jack Marchbanks,
Yes.
Thomas Fleming,
Yes.
Brian Chandler,
Yes.
and Robert Wasco.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 4.02, individual licenses. No motion for this, information only. We have individuals that were issued a registration number, dual licenses, and one is a funeral director. And individuals certified as an apprentice. And we have new building license, leasing space, change of ownership, and occupancy permit, and name changes.
It was all in order in the office from this house.
Yes.
And recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? And roll call?
Mr. Chandler,
Yes.
Mr. Wasco,
Yes.
Mr. Boyer,
Yes.
Mr. Fleming,
Yes.
Mr. Marchbanks.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 4.04, facility licenses, no motion, information only. Change of manager and AIC, and funeral home paperwork previously approved.
Why is it not switching over? Is the first one is on 4.04 is what?
It's the change of the manager and AIC. And then it goes into the funeral home paperwork previously approved.
Is that Weber, is the first one Weber?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I went to mortuary college with Carl Oder back in 1984.
I don't think you're that old.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move to 5, continuing education. Either to approve continuing education programs.
I have a question on a couple of those. First of all, you guys, very difficult to read. I don't know who sets those up, Jared or Danny or who? Well, I
It's
couldn't read-
Danny.
Yeah, I couldn't read them at home. Did you guys notice there's a couple of them in there for 11 or 12 hours?
For the convention in there, yes.
National Convention was one, but there was another one.
That's the one in Indianapolis, and then 10,
That Kate Boylston,
that's the Noma's publication, isn't it?
I don't know.
I think they're the ones that do the yellow book.
Mhm.
What is that, is that a convention or what? They're offering?
Yeah, those
11
are
hours?
the 10th Annual Funeral Directors Association.
The Kate Boylston is?
Yeah. If you scroll on over to the right, first is the program provider, program date, hours. We give them the program, they have program numbers, location, and the program name. All of those that have those extended hours are associated to the conference.
Okay.
Do we have a
And
motion?
I don't think we've ever, online
Right.
continuing ed, we've placed a maximum,
Yeah.
but I don't think we've done it for any conventions.
Convention, right.
And these are all national institutes or associations, so.
Mr. Chairman, I'm new to this, so excuse the ignorance reflected in the question if there's any that's to be seen. These providers, how are they vetted? How do you know that they're continuing education that is provided meets muster vis-a-vis Ohio?
They provide an application, but attached to the application, they have to provide what the program content is. They have to provide information on who the speaker is and what their background is and what their certifications to provide that training is as well, and what all of the content will be. And a makeup of why they're attributing the number of hours and what's to be covered in those hours. Then we prepare an overview of this type of a spreadsheet for you that gives you the top information.
And as,
And if there's something that's inconsistent with what we've seen in the past, we will also reach out to board officers as well and ask for some input.
thank you.
And also, I think, Mr. Chairman, also in the past, if there was a program that was a recommendation for us to reject, they've also put that on there too. After vetting.
Thank you.
We have a motion to approve.
So,
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Wasco?
Yes.
Mr. Fleming?
yes.
Mr. Marchbanks?
Yes.
Mr. Chandler?
Yes.
Mr. Boyer?
Yes.
Motion passes.
5.02 as an audit. Tommy,
Sorry, I'm late.
let the record show that Tommy Taft is now with us. We need to give you some time for your.
No, go ahead.
Okay, we're on continuing education, we're on 5.02, the audit. It's going to be misrepresentation on renewal application and failed to meet the requirements.
This case is very similar to ones you've seen over the past couple of months. In this case, we had sent notice of the audit to the licensees, and we did not receive a response. So to confirm, to make sure that the licensee was aware that they were a part of the audit, we resent that audit notice to them, certified mail. It was returned to us as unclaimed. So we then sent it again via certificate of mailing to show that we've made sure that those licensees were aware that they were part of the audit. We also then allowed the appropriate same time frame for them to respond, and still no response. In the past, those who failed to respond, you've issued them the violations in front of you, and then you have proposed the denial of the renewal of the license via an adjudicatory hearing. And with these two, we would be done with the continuing education audit.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I make a motion to charge the two licensees listed with violation of 4717.09 and 1717-901.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
May I clarify that you're only choosing one of the two violations, Mr. Wesco?
No, not yet. I did. I thought there was.
There is a recommendation for 4717.14 A11. That's misrepresentation on the renewal application, and then the one that you mentioned.
Okay. There we go. I know, but the screen is giving me.
Yeah, mine's cutting off half of the content of the minutes and everything, I don't know.
No.
Might be adjusted for next meeting.
Mine's been working okay. So.
From the paper, from the agenda that was sent to me, I would like both violations.
Okay. I'll just modify your motion to include 4717.14 A11 and 4717.09C.
Yes.
And it was the proposal for the denial of the renewal via an adjudicatory hearing.
Correct.
And we still have a second.
Yes.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wasco?
Yes.
Mr. Fleming?
Yes.
Mr. Boyer?
Yes.
Mr. Chandler?
Yes.
Mr. Marchbanks?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Abstain.
Motion passes.
And just for everybody's information, 5.03 is the requirements of continuing education. So if anybody needs to understand that, it's on the 5.03, which is 47.17.09 of the continuing education of the Higher Revised Code.
May I clarify?
Go ahead.
At the last meeting, you asked me to add the requirements for continuing education both in revised code and administrative code for discussion.
Any discussion for anybody?
Thank you for doing
And we're moving to compliance. 6.01, recommendation to charge case 1600022, which is also associated with case number 1600023.
Would you like me to provide a summary? I can read the information if you like, or I'll just do a summary. This case is case 2-2 is associated to an apprentice. Case 2-3 will be associated to the master. The details of the cases are the same. The apprentice actually met with one of our board members at the after the July meeting for apprentice interview, which they're required to do during their apprenticeship. The board member asked us to follow up with the apprentice and the master and the funeral home. We sent an inspector to visit the facility, and we actually determined that shortly after that apprentice interview, the master took another position selling insurance for an insurance firm, and that the apprentice left that facility as well. But we learned from that licensed funeral home that the apprentice was falsifying his apprentice reports. There are a list of 6 apprentice reports included in your information where the funeral home was able to provide us the information and even cancel checks of who was paid to do the embalming on those 6 reports where the embalmer apprentice had taken credit for them as part of their completion of the apprenticeship. Also provided us one where one of the funeral accepting apprenticeship reports was taking credit for providing services to the deceased's family, where this funeral home was able to provide that this apprentice was not involved at all. The master had signed off on all 7 of these reports as well, and that is why we are making a recommendation to you to consider charging the apprentice, because an apprentice certification is a type of a license with rights, but charging them with 4717.14 A4 and under Administrative Code 4717-8-01H, which specifically talks about unprofessional conduct, including falsification or misrepresentation of any application or document submitted to the board. Specifically, we are stating that the apprentice falsified 7 documents submitted to the board, and our recommendation was that you propose the revocation of the licenses of this apprentice via an adjudicatory hearing.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I make a motion to follow through with the recommendation of the Executive Director of 1600022.
Second.
Any discussion?
There's a, states in here, how long does the master have to be licensed before you have an apprentice? 5 years? Okay, so it just covered that, so, thank you.
Any more discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wasco?
Yes.
Mr. Marchbanks?
Yes.
Mr. Tanev?
Yes.
Mr. Chandler?
Yes.
Mr. Boyer?
Yes.
Mr. Fleming?
Yes.
Motion passes.
6.02, recommendation to charge case 1600023, which is also associated with case 1600022.
The same facts exist for this case. This is addressing the master's involvement in the falsification of the reports. We, again, were recommending the same charges for falsifying the 7 documents. However, we were recommending that the board propose the revocation of the mastership via an adjudicatory hearing. That would eliminate this licensee's ability to be a master to another apprentice, and also proposing a forfeiture in the amount of $5,000 with an opportunity for an adjudicatory hearing. The reasoning for a forfeiture is that this licensee, who is the master, has been licensed for some time, and this is a first offense. First offense, as you see there, I have included for you for forfeiture, is a fine up to a maximum of $5,000.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the recommendation of Executive Director in case number 1600023.
We got a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Chandler?
Yes.
Mr. Wasco?
Yes.
Mr. Fleming?
Yes.
Mr. Tanev?
Yes.
Mr. Boyer?
Yes.
Mr. Marchbanks?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 6.03, recommendation to charge case 1500043.
The details of this case are that we previously have issued a forfeiture of $500 for this funeral home and this funeral director for failing to file their pre-need report timely. That was for the report that ended December 31st of 2013. We also, in April of 2015, issued a second offense for the second year of filing the pre-need report late. At this point, it was an opportunity for a hearing, since it was a second offense. That hearing has not been held yet or scheduled due to the fact that we were reviewing this case and they were combined. In review of this case, we had also received a complaint from a consumer who wanted $8,000 refunded to her because she alleged that her irrevocable trust was actually not properly recorded. We've completed a complete audit of all the pre-need arrangements of this funeral home, and we've concluded that 8 individuals, and we've provided a graph below of the individuals, were found to have paid for funeral home arrangements with this funeral home but their funds were not appropriately funded. Upon notification to this funeral director that we had found each of these 8, he did quickly have the funds available and has funded them to their original face value. He has not included any interest that might have occurred from the time of origination to the date that he funded them. His reasoning for this to have happened is that he was dealing with several serious family matters and that he had inadvertently failed to file the necessary paperwork in a timely manner. He did also affirm to us, though, that he has revised his pre-need funding system to institute a written checklist to avoid any oversight in the future. The original complainant was refunded all of her money as she had requested. The funeral director, though, also attested on the annual pre-need report that the pre-need report was accurate and did include all of the funds received associated to pre-need. However, out of those same 8, 6 of them were not included on the pre-need report at all. 2 of them were included on the pre-need report, but were short $500 each. So with that, we've concluded that the respondent failed to properly deposit the funds of 8 individuals totaling $22,200 within 30 days of receipt, as he's required to by law, and also failed to report the pre-need contracts of 6 individuals on the annual pre-need funeral contract report for the period ending December 31st of 2014. In addition to that, there were also 2 individuals that he failed to report the correct amounts in the account balance on the annual pre-need report ending December 31st, 2014. With that, we've recommended charging the funeral director and the funeral home with 8 violations of Ohio Revised Code 4717.36, specifically for failing to deposit the funds of 8 individuals totaling $22,200 within 30 days of receipt, and 8 violations of Ohio Revised Code 4717.31, specifically for failing to include the pre-need contracts of 6 individuals and not including all funds in the account balance of 2 individuals on the annual pre-need funeral contract report for the period ending December 31st, 2014. With those violations, if you consider them, we also propose that you consider proposing a suspension of the funeral director and funeral home licenses via an adjudicatory hearing.
One recommendation of discussion first.
I mean, I'll make a motion.
I'm just saying we need to make a motion, then we have a discussion, or if you.
I'll make a motion to proceed with the recommended plan on case number 150043.
Second.
Any discussion?
Are all 8 of those individuals still living?
Yes.
Okay. And his reasoning was he was having some personal family issues for 7 years?
He indicated the death of his brother in the last year, but that does not provide details that go back to 2007, no.
So these span from 2007 to 2014.
Yes.
Right, one took 7.5 years to fund, one took 5 years, well, 4.5 years to fund, one 3 years.
Has our inspectors been through all of his files?
Yes, and all of these files.
All of his files that were given to them?
Yes, all of the files that were available in the funeral home and that he identified as pre-need files. If there are some other files located in some other place, we have no knowledge of that.
This is the kind that scares me.
Another point of discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Have all of the customers, clients, have they been all made whole?
We would not say made whole because, for instance, if you purchased a pre-need contract in 2007, there were some interest between 2007 and today, and he has funded them to their original face value and has not yet included all of what the interest would have been.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to remind our executive director that in these cases, that, compounding the interest to make these people whole, I think should be something that should be considered, along with the shortage of the $500 of those two accounts. I mean, for that to be made whole, during this whole, as we go through this process.
Okay.
Mr. Wasko, do we have the statutory authority? I like where you're going with that, but do we have the statutory authority to do that, or after that?
I think if there's a settlement, if it ever gets to a settlement type situation, if they could agree in a settlement to do that.
Which invites my next question. Who would conduct that settlement negotiation?
I believe the procedure would be the president of the board. Well, I think the AG's office, and then the president of the board, along with the executive director, we have given them the authority to make those decisions.
That is correct. The negotiations on charges have to be handled by our office. The client makes the ultimate decision when the negotiations come through
So
us.
I was correct on that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. And that's why I made a note to them that I think that those two issues, those accounts that did not take in consideration the interest that would have been earned on those accounts need to be addressed, as well as the shortage of $500.
I totally agree with you, and I'm in favor of your suggestion 100%. The only, again, two questions that I have is, number one, whether we have statutory authority to request that, and I'm all in favor. I just want to make sure that we have the authority to do that. Number two, that if there's going to be a negotiation of settlement, that the executive director only would do that with the assistance of counsel.
And the approval has to come from the president of the board.
As cases, this gentleman had the money to put back in there, unlike other cases that we've seen where they spent the money and the money's not there to reimburse to fulfill these accounts. But still, the fact that he's really taking advantage of the consumer in 8 cases here, so
There's a pattern.
it starts a pattern, doesn't it? It's been 7 years, and it's, where, is this really all of it? That question's in my mind. Is this really all of it? What else is out there? What's he not showing us?
Any more discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Chandler?
Yes.
Mr. Tanner?
Yes.
Mr. Boyer?
Yes.
Mr. Fleming?
Yes.
Mr. Marchbanks?
Yes.
Mr. Wasko?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And we have a recommendation to close case number 150064, 150074, and 160001.
Was this one family ever made in that delay where the suspension took place and they were get their certificates and all that?
They did.
Last one.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to close.
I'll second the motion. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Boyer?
Yes.
Mr. Fleming?
Yes.
Mr. Tanner? Mr. Chandler?
Yes.
Mr. Marchbanks?
Yes.
Mr. Wasko?
Yes.
Motion passes.
We'll move on to 6.05, request for representation to the Attorney General's office.
I was reading through these, Christie, just when you ask for a status update, does that mean you just want the most current update we have on the cases, or does it
Yes.
come in when you're asking for that at the end of a lot of these?
Yes, just because I'm new to the board and I know some of them have not been updated in several months, so I'm looking to see where the status is and see what direction we can take it.
And obviously you have everything from summer and previous
Yes.
daisies.
Mr. Chairman, you need a motion?
No, we do not. And we're moving on to item 6.06, pending cases.
Is there anything you can highlight on these for us, Vanessa? Or-
Not a lot of details because they're pending investigations. Just to tell you though, I know that's why I put it in brackets, the ones that are misappropriation preview right now, that are funeral home suspended, those are all the same licensee that's pending a court case. It's just as there's new articles in that town about this licensee's criminal pending case for these, we have new people that come forward, and we've added them here, looking to see if they're actually misappropriated or not, and continuing to investigate those. So we probably will even add more over time.
So those top 3 or 4 are all the same?
Yep, same licensee. The unlicensed owner practicing funeral directing we talked about last month, we had sent a cease and desist, and we are just continuing that investigation for a period of time. Probably we'll see it maybe even several more months. We just we don't want to close it until we kind of check back up randomly ourselves several times to be sure that the activity is not continuing to happen. And then the last one is a bill dispute.
An update on that cease and desist letter, I sent 2 versions,
Not the same case.
not the same case?
No.
I'll wait.
Okay.
Moving on to the executive director's report, inspection 7.01, has to do with our inspectors, Anderson and Seahawks.
I've included for your review both of their covers that show the attribution of their time and miles covered in the funeral homes that they've inspected. And then also you also have available to you the detailed report of each location where they've been. And no concerns on any of those noted violations.
Everybody's been in compliance. And we'll move on to 7.02, fiscal year 2016 budget review and invoices.
No one spent it, so it's not very good.
Yes, fiscal year just started July 1.
Anybody have any questions? Move on to 7.03, case number 15000066.
This was a case that you heard last month that involved a deceased being buried without a burial transit permit. You had asked me to forward the case also to Cemetery Board, which is in the Division of Real Estate, part of Department of Commerce. I have done that. I've had some conversations via email, particularly with Ann Pettit, and they are looking into the matter and will provide us their opinion or some information once they've had time to gather some information on their end. So I don't have anything yet to report on that, and I'll continue it on to next month's meeting as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Ms. Niekamp, how was, when you were talking to them, were they appreciative? I mean, do we have a
They're-
good working relationship?
We do have a very good working relationship with them. Keep in mind, one of the very first things they said is there are specific scenarios within their jurisdiction where somebody could easily be buried without a burial permit.
Right.
So this may not be a concern, but they're going to look into the details of it before they really kind of opine back to us about it.
One example? Did they give you an example?
No.
Okay. I can't think of one.
I provided them all the details, but was just assured that there potentially is scenarios where a burial permit a person being buried without a permit would not be of an issue for them.
I think probably, for the most part, you get out in these rural areas, as Brian and I are, we get out there, I don't even think those sections care about their permit. They care about a check, you know, so.
So you usually keep them?
Oh, no, we give them to them, but
Okay.
I don't think they really care.
But they still leave them.
Yeah.
Okay.
You never have the problem when you say, oh, I forgot to bring your birth permit check, I'll drop it in the mail. Well, that'll be okay.
Yeah.
You never have. Yeah.
And moving on to 7.04, media on the Robert Tate Jr. and Tate Funeral Services.
I provided the next 3 agenda items just as information only. There were several articles regarding the Tate case, just providing them for you to know what's happening in his area regarding this case. And then I also provided 7.05, which was a funeral home, also in Toledo, not the Tate Funeral Home, that was providing a service, and there were shots fired during the funeral service. Just again, information for you. And then also 7.06 is just other media information that I found that is involving the funeral industry across the state, or not the state, I'm sorry, across the nation. And that's just all information for you.
Regarding the Tate case, is our status just status quo right now while the criminal investigation's going on?
No, Mr. Tate, his attorney, through his attorney, has asked for us to proceed with the adjudicatory hearing, and that is scheduled for August 26th. So next week we will be having the hearing. It'll be at 10 a.m. and hearings are open to the public.
Mr. Chairman, to Christie, you're familiar with this case?
Absolutely.
The transition through summer and everything went smoothly?
Yeah, that's what I've spent a large part of my time on in the last few weeks. Vanessa and I have talked about it.
Okay, good.
Action on Part 8.
I had one thing before we adjourn.
Okay.
Before we adjourned, I just wanted to ask, Mr. Taniff, you had asked for an informal opinion from the AG's office back at the May meeting. I have received a request for information from Mr. Zamborski and just needed a status update on that so I could respond.
Yeah, I think his email should be responded, his request should be responded to.
No, I mean, have you received anything necessarily on your request that you asked
No.
back in May?
Mr. Chairman,
I-
Christie,
if I
are you
could-
familiar with that request?
I'm familiar with it. I know Summer had done some research. I have the research. It's a matter of putting it together. So it's on my radar.
I was just going to say, I'm sure that in the transition with us losing council and gaining new council, I had also indicated I think it was not urgent, but that we should respond to Mr. Zamborski's.
Who will be getting back to Mr. Zamborski, the AG's office?
No, I'll just respond that I don't have anything to provide on that.
Can I ask who is Mr. Zamborski?
He is a licensed funeral director who has come before the board asking the board for a legal opinion about the sale of pre-need.
There seemed to be a historic AG's opinion that I think he disagrees with.
I believe that AG's opinion, as we had talked about before, was actually issued before the law changed, and that AG's opinion wouldn't be relevant to the way the law is currently written. And the request was for the AG to give an informal opinion on unlicensed individuals selling pre-need.
It was essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, it was Mr. Zamborski's position is that no one outside of the licensed industry should be allowed to sell this service. And that, again, correct me if I'm putting words into his mouth, that by allowing non-funeral licensed individuals to sell this benefit, that it was intruding upon his livelihood. Am I correct?
I believe that's what he's saying, yes.
And he's taken the position that no one should be allowed to sell this type of product except for someone that's licensed.
Also, if I can add, the delegation of that responsibility by a licensed person is against Ohio statute. And I think we covered that with him addressing Mr. Fleming. The licensed field director cannot delegate that responsibility to an unlicensed person. That's the main point of the informal opinion.
Christie, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
was that presentation in May?
Yes.
Okay. It would probably be a good idea to take a look at our May meeting. So you'll be able to see, because Mr. Zamborski took some time and spoke to the group, and you'll probably get a good gist of it after that.
Okay, thanks. For the record, you should probably identify who's speaking.
Field director Doug Wilson.
Hillary Bannister, the AEG. Did the entire board vote to request this opinion?
They did.
Oh, just so they knew.
Yes.
And was that request made during the meeting, just for my
Yes.
records? Okay.
It seems, I have to say this just because I'm passionate about it. There are times we get requests, there are times we get opinions from the AG's office that we don't request, and the ones we do request, we don't get. Or we don't get in a timely fashion. So I have all the faith, Chris, I have all the faith.
It's first thing on the request for representation, so I'll be looking into it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we're to item 8.
The only other thing I wanted to point out
Okay.
before you adjourn is just keep in mind the September meeting is on a very different day. We're usually a Monday or Tuesday, but you had scheduled that meeting for Wednesday, September 16th.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Any more discussion?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Roll call?
Let me catch up to you.
Okay.
Mr. Chandler?
Yes.
Mr. Tannen?
Yeah.
Mr. Marchbanks?
Yes.
Mr. Boyer?
Yes.
Mr. Fleming?
Yes.
Mr. Wasko?
Yes.
Motion's passed, the meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, everybody, for attending.